Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As we leave Southwark Bridge, I take you off to our next location. Back through Fruiterer's Passage. There's great tiled images on either side. And as I said, we're steeped in history in London, and if you dig down deep enough, you'll get to the layer of, this is pre-Great Fire of London, and this is after the Great Fire of London. And if you dig down deep enough, you'll get to that layer of burning, and it's a tangible layer in the soil that's visible. Go down deeper still, and you'll come to another layer of burning. And that's when Boudica, Queen Boudica, or Boadicea, burned London, or Londinium. 3 Barrels Walk. Shakespeare's Globe all lit up. The Millennium Bridge, or the Wobbly Bridge as it was once known. It did wobble and had to be shut for some considerable time. Vintners Hall, all lit up. Yes, I quite agree. And here we come up to it. One of the oldest parts of London. Refounded by Alfred the Great, King Alfred the Great. Queenhithe by night. With the tide quite in and little to see. A very modern looking area nowadays, but a really old, interesting piece of London, steeped in history. And as I say, with the tide quite in and little to see. But on that note, and with a click of my fingers, the Alfred plaque. This plaque was erected in 1986 to mark the 100th anniversary of King Alfred's resettlement of the Roman city of London in 886, after the abandonment of the Saxon town, which had existed for some 3 centuries in the Strand area to the west of the city. At this place, a harbour and market were established in 899 to restore trade after the Viking invasions. Erected by the Museum of London and Waite's City of London properties, unveiled by the Right Honourable Lord Mayor Sir David Rowe Ham, GBE, on the 25th of November 1986. And this is Queenhithe. It's cobbles and it's dock. So this spot here, where you see all these people down there, they're mudlarkers looking for historical treasures. You can get a mudlarker's license and go down there and do that. But this is one of the oldest parts of the refoundation of the City of London. And there's information here. Queenhithe. Queenhithe was a thriving medieval dock and is the only surviving inlet along the city waterfront today. In AD 886, the Roman city was reoccupied by King Alfred the Great. The city walls provided some protection from the Viking raids. King Alfred established the first harbour here at Ethelred's Hithe. It is recorded in contemporary charters as a trading shore where goods were sold directly from beached boats. The harbour was known as Queenhithe after Queen Matilda, wife of Henry I, was granted the dues from the dock in the early 12th century. The right was inherited by successive English queens. By the 13th century it had become a principal dock for the handling of grain and other foodstuffs to feed London's growing population. However, the dock declined in the 15th century in favour of better facilities and something, because it's been scratched out, vessels at Billingsgate downstream at London. Archaeological excavations beneath the building behind you have revealed evidence of Roman quays, King Alfred's trading shore, and the succession of medieval waterfronts, each one reclaiming more land from the Thames. Most of these structures, known as revetments, were wooden and they have been well preserved in the waterlogged conditions. Some were built using timbers recycled from the building and ships, giving archaeologists a very rare opportunity to study Saxon and medieval woodworking techniques and to date them accurately by analysing tree ring growth. River silts and reclamation dumps associated with these waterfronts have produced finds remarkably good condition, particularly metal objects. After the 14th century, waterfronts began to be built in stone, which lasted much longer, and the process of reclaiming land slowed down. By the 18th century, most of the waterfront in the city had reached the modern alignment. Today, remnants of the Victorian use of the riverfront and the port can be seen at a low tide on the foreshore beneath you. These are barge beds constructed to level and stabilise the foreshore for berthing flat-bottomed barges which transported goods to and from the waterhouses lining the waterfront in the 19th and 20th century. Conservation. The foreshore at Queenhithe Wharf helps to support 350 species of invertebrates, 115 species of fish, which can be found in the River Thames. The foreshore area between low and high tide watermark represents the most ecologically important area, as it provides somewhere for algae to grow, a home for invertebrates, feeding grounds for birds, and spawning areas for fish. The foreshore habitat in the City of London is severely constrained by urban developments. We've been careful not to disturb this fragile environment during the construction works by limiting our works on the foreshore. The timber fenders on the face of the wall have been kept as they contribute to the biodiversity of the river by allowing a base for seaweeds and invertebrates. Flooding. The river wall at Queenhithe Wharf forms part of the tidal flood defence protecting the City of London from flooding. If any section of the walls along the stretch of the river were breached, it would cause considerable flood damage to the property and major disruption to transport and infrastructure. The Environment Agency, along with the City of London, have strengthened and improved the wall at Queenhithe Wharf to reduce the flood risks to people and property. The design of these improvement works has been guided by English heritage, who required the appearance of this scheduled ancient monument to be maintained. The design ensured that a minimum disturbance was caused to the archaeology and ecology of the wharf. The strengthened river wall was opened by Alderman Gordon Haynes in summer 2008. And the Queenhithe Mosaic, which is another impressive little thing, which I shall show you now, once you've had a look at this plaque. The Queenhithe Mosaic, a timeline displaying the remarkable layers of history from Roman times to Her Majesty's Diamond Jubilee, unveiled on the 18th of November 2014 by the Right Honourable Lord Mayor Alderman Alan Yarrow. Conceived and facilitated by Gordon Warwick Haynes, Alderman of Queenhithe Ward, designed and created by South Bank Mosaics, generously funded by 40 Hotel Group and Heritage Lottery Fund. And here it is. And I'll slowly walk you through it because it starts off at 50 BCE, which to old school people would be BC, before Christ. They've altered it now because it's before the Common Era, and AD after Anno Domini in the reign of Christ. Unlike Disney's, it's changed now. You've got Common Era and before the Common Era. And if you remember my Eastbury Manor House series, Clement Sisley, who's buried at St Margaret's Church in Barking, he had a house here and his business here in Queenhithe, and his country residence was Eastbury in Dagenham, or Barking and Dagenham. He was a merchant, so this would have been prime territory for him. And that's the Queenhithe Mosaic. You'll join me just up here. You have now joined me just up here. Tate Modern, Globe, and the ancient Queenhithe Dock. And to end us off with this snippet, we're now right at the corner of Queenhithe Dock. We were just over there. This is where the mosaic runs along this wall here. And down on the shore there you can see the frames or hulks of those sunken barges that were put in place to build up the riverbank and allow for other barges to be brought in to offload and unload cargoes. I'll take you down this way, which will end you off here at a place much frequented by Samuel Pepys in his day, and there's a nod to him just here. I have covered it before. Stew Lane and the Samuel Pepys pub just there. This old lane, which looks quite modern now, originally led down to river steps that would take you over to the Southwark stews, which were where all the prostitutes and brothels and bear baiting and cockfighting and all the stuff that the City of London did not want in the City of London, that was all kept on that side of the river, known as the Southwark stews, hence why this little lane is known as Stew Lane. And you have the Samuel Pepys Stew Lane, and the Samuel Pepys pub is in an old warehouse. And you can see the mudlarkers down on the shore doing their thing. And that ends us off for this segment. And going back to the earliest origins of Queenhithe and the time of Alfred the Great. Now, of course, any imagery that does exist from his time is very primitive and rudimentary, and no imagery from Queenhithe of his time does exist, so we rely on the mural for that. But Alfred established Ethelred's Hive here as a trading shore where goods were sold directly from boats. The area around the dock was amongst the earliest parts to be refounded, and charters date the dock back to 889 AD. And Queenhithe Market. Queenhithe Market in the 1590s by Hugh Alley. Alley was a minor city functionary responsible for prosecuting those who infringed market regulations, and he supplied us with a decent image of the market here. Queenhithe Ward. Two Gentlemen of Queenhithe by Hugh Alley once again. Images in the public domain. The man on the right is Alderman John Moore, master of the Skinners Company from 1597 to 1601, who also served as Sheriff of London and was on the committee for the East India Company. The man on the left thought to be Paul Hawkins, a vintner and common councilman of the ward. Now, Queenhithe, like much of the city of London, would be wiped away by the Great Fire of London of 1666. And as I mentioned, Mr. Clement Sisley, who had a country residence of Eastbury Manor, just outside of Barking, he had property at Queenhithe. He was dead by the time of the Great Fire of London, of course, but his old property and that would have been wiped away. Here we see the Great Fire of London of 1666. 1676, so just 10 years afterwards, and here we see Queenhithe and Queenhithe Dock, and like much of London, it was rebuilt pretty quickly. A busy, thriving dockland area at the time, as it remained for many years. Just 1 year later, and what the residents of Queenhithe would have been able to enjoy: the Frost Fair of 1677 by Abraham Honduus. And here you can see in the background Old London Bridge with its narrow spans, and that's what caused the Frost Fairs. It narrowed the course of the flow of the water and slowed it down and allowed it to freeze. And here you see in 1814 the last Frost Fair. When they rebuilt London Bridge, it was built with much wider spans, which allowed for a greater flow of water and, of course, didn't allow for it to freeze over anymore. So this was the very last Frost Fair. This great map, and I think it's brilliant, shows and beautifully illustrates the parish and the ward, as you can see here, marked with the blue arrow, Queenhithe, and the lost church of St Michael's, Queenhithe. Now, there was a church there for many years from medieval times where Clement Sisley would have worshipped. That church, like a lot of London, was wiped away in the Great Fire and was rebuilt. With this church here, and you can see it in 1831 by J. Tingle. Now, sadly, like quite a few of the London churches, it would eventually be pulled down by the Victorians in the 1870s in the case of this one. So you're looking at a lost London church here. Queenhithe, London, St Paul's in the distance, by Frederick Lloyd's, 1818 to 1894. And this painting can't better illustrate just how busy and thriving the Pool of London was, and the Docklands area of London back then as it was. A winter sketch off Queenhithe. So this was obviously done from a boat, done in 1895, and it is the Illustrated Sporting and Dramatic News. Here we see a shell warehouse in Queenhithe in circa 1900. Things like mother of pearl would have been sold from here and all sorts, and you can see each lot labelled neatly. Queenhithe Dock in 1923 by Waldo McGillicuddy Eager. And here you see it not too many years before the Second World War, which would wipe away once again, like the Great Fire of London did, a lot of Queenhithe. But here you see Smith's Wharf, what remained after the war, by Eric Delamere, and this is in the 1950s. And if you look over to the left, a little peep there of the old St Paul's just peeking through. And that's our little history section covered. Hope you all enjoyed that, and you'll now join me back in the present in the evening time. I don't know if you heard that in the distance, but that was the bells of St Paul's striking 8 o'clock. And we end off at the little corner we ended off in our daytime one. Hope you enjoyed the historical images. And as I said, this was once the haunt of a Barking and Dagenham resident, Mr. Clement Sisley, who lies buried in St Margaret's Church, Barking. He was a merchant who had a London house here in Queenhithe and the country residence of Eastbury Manor. So, and I was speaking to an interesting fellow about half an hour ago in between filmings. I was talking about the mudlarkers and that, and he went, "Oh, me and my wife do that." I went, "How'd you go about getting a licence?" He went, "We haven't got one." He went, "Most of the people that go down there and do it," he went, "haven't got licences." He went, "As long as you don't use a metal detector and like really start digging massive holes into the foreshore, you're generally good to go." So that's another free thing that you could do with the kids. Get down onto the foreshore, which you do by walking along here, through round there, and you'll come to some river steps. But I'll end us off at Stew Lane and its memories of baldiness and such like. Oh. The Samuel Pepys. And as I said, in the daytime there was once river steps here. Take a boat over to the Southwark Stews, where you could do all the things that the City of London did not want in the City of London. So interesting times. And Samuel Pepys was known to go over to the Southwark Stews, so although surrounded by modern buildings, we know that he would have walked down this Stew Lane, which is another ancient or old, very old London street. And that's what I shall end us off with. That is your list of free things or cheap things to do in London. Hope you all found that interesting. Hope you all enjoyed the nighttime views and seeing the Andalusia. That was lovely. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I will see you all soon. And our next little series is going to be Open House Festival, Middle Temple Hall. So you'll join me in the temple area where we'll be covering that next. Take care all. See you all soon.